This is part three. Welcome to part three. Welcome to Black Star Duh. Welcome to the channel. So, as I stated before, we left off on how we used to travel from state to state. So, here's a list of the cities that we went to. I remember them all. So, started off in Las Vegas. Then we went to Salt Lake City, Utah. Um, it was really Ogden, Utah, but it was close to Salt Lake City, so I say Salt Lake City. Um, then we went to Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas City, Kansas. Anybody from the Kansas City area would tell you that it's the same city, pretty much, even though it's not. Um, then we went to Columbus, Ohio. Man, being from Cleveland, going to Columbus, I was very familiar with that. I met a lady there when I was going door to door. Um, I used to have a picture of her up until like maybe like a year ago when I went through my Google Photos and just like started deleting like a whole bunch of stuff. Like I don't need this anymore. So I used to have a picture of her, and she was like an older lady. She was like 35 at the time, and man, that was a unique experience just like dating her. Um, I remember because at that time I didn't have a car. We was in living in hotel rooms, so she would come and pick me up from the hotel, and we would go down the street to go shoot some pool or whatever. So it was a little nice experience. Um, from there, we went to Vernon, Connecticut. Now, so remember the company's called Universal Global Stars. So if you were to look this up on the Better Business Bureau, you'll see that in the comment section, there's a man named Willie who talked about how we left him stranded in Vernon, Connecticut. Well, first of all, let me. So I'm gonna tell you the story about Willie, Uncle Willie. I remember him. So from Vernon, Connecticut, we hit we hit Boston, parts of New York. We hit Newtown. Now, why that name might sound familiar is that there's a little. All right, so Newtown is like New York. There are five boroughs that make up Newtown. Which, no, at that time I was so confused on why it was called that. So, but the most important thing is that one of the boroughs is called Sandy Hook. Sandy Hook, Newtown. Yes, this is right after the infamous Sandy Hook shooting that happened. We was in there during the summer, so it was like 6 months after it happened. So that's why like whenever I would watch news reports, I was always confused when they would say Sandy Hook, Newtown. I was like, when did we call it Sandy Hook, Connecticut? But just like you would say Brooklyn, New York City, you wouldn't say Brooklyn, New York. You know, even though it's New York City, New York, whatever. Um, so yeah, so we went to Sandy Hook, and we went door to door selling magazines. Something I am not proud of, but I was informed to do, which hey, just shut the fuck up and do what you're told. We were telling people that some of the proceeds were going to the victims of the shootings. Of course, they wasn't good. They wasn't going to them, but whatever it takes to get the check, right? When all else fails, my enthusiasm and reasons will sell. Um, so we was like lying to these people, telling them that yeah, a portion of the proceeds is gonna go to those victims, and man, to this day, it's like, man, I can't believe I can't believe I done something like that. But there's no telling how low you would go for money. And at that time, I just shut up and did what I was told because seeing that $500,000 on the bed really just changed my life. Um, so that man, first of all, if you ever been to Connecticut, Connecticut has some beautiful homes, like beautiful, beautiful. There are two things wrong: the humidity, and the fact that their homes are spread out and the driveways are long. So it's like, you've ever been out to the country and then you like the houses are spread out, and the driveway is like super long, and you gotta like, cause we were walking, so like the person will drop you off in the corner. You got like this whole block to yourself. You got to go walk up, walk down, walk up, walk down. It was a pretty good way to stay in shape at the time. Um, Sorry if you hear like a whole lot of wind. They're saying it's supposed to be wind gusts of 55 miles an hour today here in Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm seeing palm trees doing the Matrix lane outside my window. so so hey, you never know. Um, so we then went from Vernon, Connecticut to Toledo, Ohio. We went there because the boss had to take care of some things back home. The company was based out of Youngstown, Ohio, but a whole lot of his family was in Detroit. So I believe from Detroit to Toledo was like maybe like an hour and a half. So from there he can go to Detroit and also still go to Youngstown, which was the base. Um, and at Toledo, I was thinking about leaving, but I didn't leave. We went to Lexington, Kentucky. Then next, Lexington, Kentucky was my last stop. I was burnt out at that point. I hit the 6 month mark. I was tired of going door to door. I was tired of eating McDonald's every day. I was tired of doing the fake smile, like, "Hi, how you doing? I stopped by real briefly to get you the back me of this year's on-the-job business training, being sponsored by the Universal Global Stars. Have you heard of us?" Like, I got tired of doing that. Um, it was just, it was time for me to go. And at that time, I was super. How can you force these women to have sex with all these men and all that stuff? But at the time, I didn't know that it was these women's choice. Maybe not in a good way, but it was the even exchange. They got to travel the country, live in hotels, and just be carefree. And like the women were like runaways and felons too, so it wasn't like they could just go home and get a job at that time, because having a felony was like looked down upon. So the men were the providers, and the women were just giving it up. And I'm it's like so weird because like I don't want to say it was their choice, because I'm pretty sure if they had a choice, they would have never came. But then they came and they knew what was up, so they had a it was just like super weird. So I remember the day I got fired. So like the company will keep working with you as long as you do what you're supposed to do. And one night I didn't check in. Like we hit Lexington, Kentucky. We was there for like I believe we was there for like 2 days at that point. And one night, when the van came back, everyone was like, "Okay, okay, go check in and then go do whatever." I didn't check in. I just went and walked around, and I knew about it, and I knew I didn't check in. So they was mad at me for not checking in. And then when I came back, I didn't go speak to Mr. Weldon. I went to sleep or whatever. And then in the morning, I still didn't go speak to Mr. Weldon. So during that meeting, he said he was doing something called shaking the shit. So he got up and started like doing this dance, whatever. And then he said, "Mr. Dove, you're out of here." And that was like the biggest relief ever. I just smiled and said thank you. Um, they went and dropped me off at the bus station, and they gave me a Greyhound bus ticket back to Cleveland. Let me backtrack it right quick to Uncle Willie. Uncle Willie was a drunk. I believe we picked up Uncle Willie. We picked up Uncle Willie in Columbus. Yeah, he was with us in Columbus, and all he did was like drink, 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 drink. And then when we was in Vernon, Connecticut, we got into an accident. Like someone rear-ended us. And remember how I told you about the Honda Odyssey? How in the back there's like this little hole. Like just Google Honda Odyssey. You Google the trunk, you'll see like this little like hole thing. He was sitting in there because he wasn't having any sales, so he had to ride on the way to back. So when we got rear-ended, he got hit, and he started talking about how his back was hurting and how he needed all this stuff to happen. So I guess they started working with him for a little while, but I guess he just kept on complaining. Um, they didn't leave him stranded. That much I can promise you. I remember that they dropped him off at the Greyhound bus station, same as they did me. Um, so I just want to make sure I told the story of Uncle Willie. Oh man, that dude was something else, man. All he did was drink. Them little $1 bottles. You know, from the store, you go to the store, you get those little $1 bottles. That dude stayed with that stuff. Um, so I said goodbye to Hollywood, and then we left. Like I said, they dropped me off at a Greyhound bus station. So I get back to Cleveland, and I text my mom, "Hey mom, I'm back. After 6 months." And I told her I'm thinking about leaving again. At this point, my mom was like, "No, you're not gonna leave and all that stuff." I guess she thought like, I'm back, it's over, whatever. So instead of going home from the Greyhound bus station, I went to the homeless shelter and told them how I was stranded and I had family in Phoenix, Arizona. So what they did was, what I figured out that a whole lot of places would do is that it is way cheaper for them to buy me a Greyhound bus ticket and send me on my way to Phoenix than it is to house me for a month. So that same day, um, I gave them the number to my ex fiance, um, and then they called her, but she didn't answer at the time, and because initially you're supposed to have someone answer and say, "Yeah, I have a place for him to stay," but I was just like, "Yeah, that's my family. My family's there." So they were just like, "Okay, whatever." They got me a Greyhound bus ticket and gave me a $25 gift card to this place called Dave's Supermarket in Cleveland. So I went there, loaded up on a whole bunch of snacks, and I sat and I waited for my Greyhound bus to arrive. So and I left like I left within 24 hours. Like I said, that same day I went to the homeless shelter, and then I went to to Dave's Supermarket, and then we went to the back to the Greyhound bus station, and my bus left at like 2 a.m. And I still remember that it was a 3-day trip. If you go on my Instagram, you'll see I still have the photos of that 3-day trip. The best one probably came in it's called Amarillo, Texas. And I took a picture of me and Abe Lincoln. Like, it's still on my Instagram. But during those 3 days, I was looking up homeless shelters to go to, because I'm like, I'm going to Phoenix and I'm never coming back. Um, so, excuse me. So we get there. For those of you who are familiar with the Phoenix area, the Greyhound bus station is on 24th Street and Buckeye. And I had to walk to this place called Tumbleweed. And at that time, it was located on 16th Street in McDowell. So, with two briefcases, I walked all the way from 24th in Buckeye to 16th Street in Buckeye, and then walked from 16th Street up to 16th Street in McDowell. And then once I went inside Tumbleweed, they gave me a shower, and then they took me to CAS, which is the Central Arizona Shelter System, I believe. That's what it's called. And I can give you a whole story of my first year in Phoenix, because it was some of the craziest shit I ever done. But obviously I'm still here. It's 7-8 years later. Never looked back. So I can give you the story of the first year I spent here, and it is most definitely a doozy. But I hope you enjoy how I got here to Phoenix. So take care. I love you, and peace be with you. Bye.